Thank you for attending the executive webinar session of Bimser International Corporation. Bimser International is a world-class global enterprise software publisher since 1998. Based in New York, Bimser is active nationally and internationally. For more information, please visit www.bimserint.net. To get the executive webinar session started, I would like to invite the Managing Director of Bimser International, Kevin Devachoglu, to the virtual stage. Kevin, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much for introductions. Much appreciated. Today we'll talk about risk management in the scope of ISO 9001 and introductions to QDMS software. My name is Kevin Deveci, and I'm the Managing Director of Bimser International. Today I have my colleagues with me. I have Alex Kvarterov from MRAS Consulting, and I have Sam Watt from Bimser International, and Sam is the Senior Process Software Engineer in our engineering team at Bimser International. Let's talk about risk today, how to manage risk, how to mitigate risk in the scope of ISO 9001, and how to use QDMS software to assess risk, how to take actions to manage risk digitally on QDMS software. As a start, let's lay the foundation of risk management in the scope of ISO 9001. And to that end, I'd like to invite Alex Kvarterov to our virtual stage. Let's learn about ISO 9001 based risk management, how to manage risk, how to assess it. And once we lay the foundation of risk management, we'll talk about how to manage it digitally on QDMS software. Alex, if you're ready, please take over the screen.
Yes, certainly.
Let me start sharing so you can continue.
Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
Almost there.
Almost there. All right.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Here
Floor
we
is
are.
yours.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much, Kevin, for inviting me for this short webinar, and thank you for joining. Today's topic is dealing with risk management, and certainly this will be discussed in accordance to ISO. Now, obviously, all of the different ISO versions currently do require all of the organizations to address risk and how to deal with risk. However, depending on the ISO, the level of control and management of the risk would be different. For example, under the AS 9100, which is the aerospace standard, risk management process is required. So you have to have a process in dealing and management with risks. Under ISO 9001, the requirement is not as stringent, but you still have to have, you have to address risks and have a resolution or address a way of resolving or mitigating the risks. Now, also, as you can see in the title, I'm saying how to control and monitor the risks and opportunities. Now, opportunities and risk are kind of on the opposite end. However, it is very important to recognize that opportunities occur at any time, and you should have opportunities. But in general, almost all opportunities generate risks. So I think that's important that once you have an opportunity, that the corresponding risks are analyzed. And we'll talk a little bit more about that and how they're all interrelated. Okay, so before I start my presentation, just a very brief introduction to my company, MRAS Consulting. I am a certified ISO 9001 lead auditor, and also I'm the sole proprietor of MRAS Consulting. Now, I've been in business since 2015 after a lengthy career as a project manager in a large aerospace company, which is certified to the AS 9100 quality standard, which is the aerospace and standard. Now, what I currently do is I provide consulting services for various businesses to both achieve as well as maintain ISO certification. And back in 2018, I became a Bimser Solutions partner. And I did that because I met Kevin and came across the QDMS tool, which I think is an excellent software tool that provide assistance in dealing with all aspects of ISO, or in other words, dealing with all of the data. And it really, using the tool helps you manage all of the very extensive data and documents involved with ISO. And I also present webinars and various lectures on ISO related topics. Okay, so let's proceed. And again, this is a high-level diagram that describes the quality management system. It's really applicable to all of the ISOs. And I'm not going to really dwell too long on it. I think this plan, do, check, act cycle was developed, created by Deming, who was a quality guru. And I think it really forms the basis of a ISO quality management system. And again, you can adopt and be compliant to ISO, but not necessarily certified. But again, this is the basic principle that you have to follow, which is, as the diagram shows, it's a continuous improvement. So you always remain in a loop. Okay, so you go from the planning stage to the actual development stage. Then there's obviously performance evaluation. So you look at your product to service that you've generated, and both internally you evaluate it and you get customer feedback as well. And that forces you to look at possible improvements, which then forces you to go back into planning and continue in that loop. And that really loop is continuously in process, because even though you may think that you're a perfect organization, but there's always room for improvement. And if you look at the ISO clauses that I have on the right side of the screen, those are really the requirements. The first three are introduction, definitions, and so on. But the real meat of the ISO clauses is clauses 4 through 10. And the numbers on the diagram refer to the particular clauses. So if you look at the diagram, you may ask, well, where does risk assessment come in? How do you apply risk and how do you implement it? Well, let's go to the next slide. And really, this identifies all of the ISO paragraphs. And again, the paragraphs refer to specifically ISO 9001, but they are very close to all the other ISO requirements. Basically have the same thing, with, again, much tougher requirements on the ISOs that have obviously a lot of safety issues involved. But let's at least stay with the ISO 9001. And if you see that almost all of the ISO clauses contain a requirement on risks. Okay, and just to go back, I've put in the lower right hand corner again the ISO clauses, just to remind you what they are. But if you look at starting from clause 4, which is the context of the organization, at that point in that particular phase, you have to determine and address the risks. And that's mostly deal with the risks of your organization. Then in clause 5, which is leadership or management, there it forces management to promote risk-based thinking. In other words, management is responsible to think about what are the risks from a management standpoint as it applies to the organization. And also, obviously, it says ensure that the risks are determined and addressed. So Again, management needs to flow down through the entire organization the criticality of addressing the risks and attempting to mitigate the risks. Now in clause 6, which is planning, obviously here is where you need to determine the risks. And again, you know, you have to look at the organization may have a lot of risk, you know, and maybe it's really not feasible to address all of the risks, but you have to really pick the, you know, low-hanging fruit. In other words, the risks that could impact the organization the most, and whether it's, you know, a few, maybe 5 or 6, if you want to start with that, that's at least a good start. But you have to, through evaluation and brainstorming, determine what are the most significant risks they may threaten your organization. But then once you identify whatever risk you're going to be dealing with, you need to plan some actions to address the risks. And they have to be integrated into your internal processes. And they really have to, you just can't write them down and put them on a shelf somewhere and hope that everything's going to go well. That has to be monitored continuously. Clause 8, which is operation. Obviously, here is where you control and manage the risks that you've identified. Now, clause 9 is performance evaluation. So this is where you evaluate your product or service, including the customer feedback, and then you really evaluate the effectiveness of the actions that were taken on the risks, and you also review the effectiveness of those actions. Now, the last one, clause 10, is improvement, and as part of the improvement, you really look at how was your organization's response to dealing with the risks. What errors have you, you know, were done? You know, were they effective? And if not, why? So that's an area where it's like a soul searching for ways to really possibly improve your risk management process. So this is where really what drives what's driven by the ISO requirements in dealing and managing the risks. So now, how do you manage the risks and opportunities? And here I will briefly talk about opportunities. But first of all, when you're dealing with risks, okay, obviously you try to think of ahead of time what could be the most, let's say, threatening risks for your organization, but you can't think of all of them. Let me give you an example. Let's say if you're planning in 2019, your activities or your management efforts in 2020, whoever thought that you're going to have to deal with a pandemic? Okay, so obviously pandemic became a huge risk to the organization, but the year before then, you had no idea that's going to happen. So in that case, obviously risks come from nowhere, you know, but the point is this, is that obviously the pandemic, when it surfaced, became a risk, and it's something that the organization had to deal with. Now, obviously you can't avoid that. I mean, you know, it's something that you have to, pandemic you have to deal with, but you can't avoid it. And some of the risks possibly avoiding is the best solution. Now, well, here I'm going to introduce here about the taking an opportunity. If you want to pursue an opportunity, it will generate risks. Okay, so yes, you know, it's important, but before you consider taking that opportunity, you have to evaluate the risks. All right, and I'll talk about the opportunities a little more further down in the slide. Eliminating the risk source, well, that's certainly a preferable way, but obviously it's not likely that you can do it every time, but at least where you can eliminate the source of the risk, that definitely should be done. Changing the likelihood or consequences. Well, again, the risks in managing risk, there's a likelihood, there's a probability involved in how it will affect your business or success. So if there's a way of reducing the effect of the risk and thus minimize the likelihood of it happening or the consequences from that risk, that's something that needs to be evaluated. Sharing the risk, obviously, if there's a risk, let's say, with, let's say that your supply chain, well, you may want to, if there's a delay in getting the supplies and that you have a penalty for it from your customer, there's a risk. That's obviously a risk. So possibly if you can work out an arrangement where your customers or whoever suppliers can share in the risk, and even possibly your customer. If you have a good relationship with a customer, obviously there's certain risks that cannot be avoided, but trying to share at least some of the burden or reduce the burden of the risk to your organization, that definitely would be helpful. And obviously, the last is, well, retaining the risk. Okay, in other words, yeah, you can't get rid of the risk, but you've analyzed the effect of the risk on your organization, and you came to the conclusion that you have to live with it. But again, you want to evaluate what are the actions or that you can take to, again, minimize the impact of that particular risk to your organizations. Now, dealing with opportunities, and you always should obviously look into opportunities, but if you look at some of the opportunities, all of them involve risk. And that's why you should proceed with certain opportunities, but at the same time, before you make a final decision, you should obviously evaluate the risk associated with each opportunity, whether they're a new product or services, new markets, and then internally, if you look at to improve your work environment, improve your productivity, and all of those issues obviously require an investment, and obviously an investment is a risk. So those issues have to be addressed. Now I have here an example, as a how to manage risks and so on. Again, certainly the risk management is up to the individual organization. You don't have to have any particular format, but the only thing is that when you're audited, you really should show the auditor what risks you have identified and what are you doing with those risks. So it's important to have it documented in some way, but the format is up to you. Okay, finally, what I want to conclude with is really managing all of the ISO requirements, which is really your QMS, quality management system, and it's a very challenging proposition, and especially now in the with the COVID impact. Even though hopefully it looks like it's, at least for now, it's behind us, but it still had an impact on most organizations. A lot of the organizations now, people are working remotely. And therefore, it is very important for the people who are working remotely to have full access, real-time access to the QMS data. because without it, obviously, they can't, fully be, complete their work requirements and be competent in their performance. So whether the remote workforce will continue or not, it is very important that all of the QMS data be managed properly, and certainly risks, the risk data and the risk resolvement, the solution to the risks, all of that should be maintained within the quality management data. And certainly QDMS is an excellent software tool that supports managing all of the ISO related data. So it is very, very recommended, highly recommended, that a tool like QDMS be used in supporting your QMS management data. And it's really helpful at all levels, from top management to your workers. So without further ado, I think Sam will provide a very brief demonstration on how QDMS can actually help you in dealing with the risk management process. So again, thank you very much for your attention, and I guess I'll pass it on to Kevin.
Alex, thank you very much, as always. Very informative presentation. Much appreciated. Thank you for sharing your insights and your educational presentation. Please stay with us. We may have questions or final remarks, and I will always appreciate your feedback. Okay, so followed by Alex's informative presentation, I'd like to invite my colleague, Sam Watt. Sam is a pre-sales, senior pre-sales software engineer at Bimser International, and it is time for show and tell. Sam will show us QDMS software in action, and he will also show us how one can manage risk digitally on QDMS software. Sam, if you are ready, please take over the screen. I'll stop sharing, so you can start sharing anytime you like. Thank you. Looks good, thanks.
Okay. So thank you for joining this webinar. And this is Sam, the Senior Pre-Sales Software Engineer of Bimser International, based in New York. And also thank you, Alex, for his presentation. And we know how important that we manage our risk in our organization. So in the following, I will show you QDMS Live, like how we can manage our risk management activities and also our records digitally by using our system. And as for QDMS, it is our quality, risk, audit, and compliance management system. And it is web-based. That means we can connect to our own QDMS by using any web browser. Furthermore, it is permission-based as well. In another word, users will see what they are supposed to do based on the permissions that are granted to their account. Different users will see what they are supposed to do based on their position, profession, department, and group. I'm now logging in as the admin of my QDMS demo environment. And also what I will see right after I log in is all the pending tasks and also the request for approval on this homepage. On the top left, this is the main menu of QDMS. QDMS provides over 30 modules, and thanks to the modular structure of the system, you can pick and choose the modules that you want to have and set this up in your own instance. And as for today, we will get into the risk assessment management module and also the FMEA module. By using the risk assessment management module, we can set up different risk assessment planning. And as for the plan, it's like the goal that we want to achieve. In this example that I have in this demo environment, we are going to have a health and safety risk assessment plan. And And as for different locations, departments, and even teams, in terms of the likelihood and also the impact, it is vary from different locations or departments. Therefore, we can set up different risk assessment items. And the items is like the objectives that help us achieve the goal. And the goal is the plan that we set up in QDMS. As you can see, different example here, I set up an assessment item for a production department, the shipping department, and also for the packaging department, for example. And as we all know, risk assessment is not one-time job. We have to perform it periodically, like monthly, semi-annually, and even annually. Therefore, we can see the trend of this risk assessment as well. So you can tell if it is getting better, staying the same, or it's getting worse. Furthermore, all your records will be shown in different colors. When it is in green color, that means it's not, this risk is not likely to happen in your organization. And also, the impact is not critical to against your organization. When it is in yellow color, that means your attentions are required. When it is in red color, that means this risk is highly likely happen or occurred in your company. And also the impact is critical. And our attentions and further actions are required. And while we are managing those in QDMS, we can absolutely define the code and also the area it is for, and also the source of this risk and the result. Furthermore, we can define the impact and also the likelihood from a scale of 5, 7, and even 11 based upon the actual operations of your company. The system will calculate the score automatically and define the index accordingly, meaning define the color of your record automatically. And if there's any precaution actions are required, like this risk is going to be a non-conformity of our company, or we need a further policy or an updated SOPs, procedures, or specifications in our company, then we can also define the precaution actions in this module as well. So we can stick this along with our risk assessment record, like a new document that we are going to have in the system, or that we want to define this as a non-conformity. Then we can also create a new record in our corrective action module of QDMS. If you want to learn more about the corrective action module, please feel free to contact us and schedule a free session of demonstration of QDMS. And in every single module of QDMS, there is a reporting tool that allows us to create different ready-made reports. For example, like all the activities reports and the risk, showing all the risk assessment lists. Besides, we have the graphical report that is available in QDMS as well, so that we can put together all the data that we save in QDMS and put them into a graphical report. On the left, you are more than welcome to put together like the criteria and also conditions that you want to see in the report. And then all your data will be shown as a pie chart, bar chart, or even a table based upon your preferences. That's how to set up from the left. And also you can export your report into Excel or image for sharing with any responsible parties or for your own documentation. There is another module that we call the FMEA assessment module, which is the failure mode and effect analyze assessment management module. And in this module, we can also create different FMEA records as like setting up our goal that we want to achieve. And under every single record that we have, we can create different items under our goal or under our plan that we have in QDMS. And let me show you one of the examples here, which is our FMEA record that we set up as for our failure mode and also effect analyze record. And under this, we can create different records, which you can find the version number of it and also date that you updated this particular record. And in this FMEA module, we can also define different information like the date that we created and also the process type, what it is about the function, request, and also the potential fault type, the reason, and also the all the items as for the severity, detection, and also the occurrence. So all of these are definable and also configurable in QDMS, meaning based upon how you manage your FMEA in your organization, then we will configure the system accordingly based upon the actual operation and also the preferences of your company. Again, if there's any precautions action that you need or that you have to define, you're more than welcome to do so in QDMS. And as for QDMS, we have an internal communication among the modules so that we can always define our precaution action like a new control document, a new corrective actions, or just simply certain action that we have to perform. So those are available to be defined and assigned to different users in our system digitally. And as for QDMS, it has a native mobile application that is available for Android and iOS device, so that we can download QDMS from the App Store and also the Google Play Store. Once you have it installed on your smartphone or tablet, then you can connect to your own QDMS by using your handheld device. And what you will see is the same data set that you can see by connecting your web browser, because they are going to and coming from the same database. I'm going to mirror my smartphone screen. And this is my smartphone running in Android OS. And I just opened QDMS mobile application. And what you will see is the login page that we have, and we can use the same credentials for logging into the same logging in by using the mobile app. And right after we log in, we can find all the notification on our homepage and also connect to all the modules that it is available in your own instance. For example, there is an action that we have to perform. Then we can get a quick connection by just simply typing the pending task on this homepage. And on the top left, we can find all the available modules that you can see in your web browser. And that is how we can manage all our quality management related activities anytime and anywhere. It comes to the end of my demonstration of QDMS on a high level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam, for the demonstration of QDMS. As my colleague Sam demonstrated, QDMS is ready for you to use for risk management in the scope of ISO 9001. You can set your risk management parameters and you can take corrective actions if necessary to mitigate the risk. You keep the records digitally, and everything comes with reports. Furthermore, as demonstrated earlier, there is a mobile app application for you to manage your risk, get notifications, and perform your ISO 9001 related tasks digitally, no matter where you are. As Bimser International, we have been developing QDMS since 1998. We are a global enterprise software publishing company. We are based in New York, and we have global presence. We have more than 1,000 corporate clients using QDMS, and we have more than 1 million professional users using QDMS to manage quality, risk audit, performance, and compliance related activities. QDMS is a standalone software system. It's very mature. It is state-of-the-art. It has the modern technology behind it. In addition, it is Acumatica ERP certified and Sage Intacct ERP certified. On QDMS, you can digitize your quality management system. You can automate your tasks. You can comply with federal, state, local, and other regulations digitally. You'll be increasing your customer satisfaction with the digital business management capabilities of the software, and you'll have an easier audit experience because all of your records are available digitally on QDMS. In addition, you'll be also creating a corporate memory. No matter who is in charge of your quality management system, your records will be available on QDMS, and you can access anytime that you need, and you can review, you can get notifications, and you can work on them anytime that you like. You can comply with more than one quality management system on QDMS. All it takes is a QDMS instance in your case, and you need username, password, and you can access with any web browser. You can comply with ISO 9001. If you have additional compliance requirements, say AS9100, or say HKF, BRC in food and beverage industry, or IATF in automotive industry, for example, you will be able to comply all these digitally in one QDMS software availability. Everything is web-based. You can access QDMS from anywhere. It has ready-made integration capabilities. It is easy to use. Once we train you, you can manage QDMS yourself. You don't need consultants or any heavy-duty IT assistance. So it's very straightforward in that sense. And the way that we prepare QDMS is very quick. So there is rapid implementation capabilities. As I mentioned earlier, QDMS is state-of-the-art. It has the latest technology available, and it comes with integration capabilities. QDMS integrates with ERP systems, CRM systems, manufacturing execution systems, and smart sensors in terms of IoT. This helps you manage your quality management system seamlessly, and also there will be no need for double entry. So it is very advantageous for your organization. It is vertical free. No matter what industry, what vertical you are in as an organization, as a corporation, as an institution, you can use QDMS anytime that you like. We have clients in many different industries: automotive, aerospace, food and beverage, chemical, finance, healthcare, pharmaceutical, energy, you name it. So we have experience in different industries, and QDMS is ready for you to use to comply with ISO, to manage risk, no matter what industry, what vertical your organization is in. QDMS is modular. There are more than 30 modules. During the demonstration earlier, you have seen some of them. So you can pick and choose any module that you like. QDMS works on laptops, desktops, tablets, smartphones. So it is actually very flexible. You can manage your corrective actions, risk management, FMEA, as demonstrated earlier. You can manage your documents, your policies, procedures. You can manage your trainer records, calibration, and many other activities. Actually, you can manage on QDMS digitally. There are many modules available, so in that sense, it is very rich, and it is ready for you to use anytime that you like to comply with ISO and any other compliance requirement. Great. So if you have any questions, or if you'd like to see anything further on QDMS, you'd like to schedule an introductory meeting, marketing team at bimser.net is our email address. Before we end our session, Alex, do you have any final remarks that you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, sure, Kevin. What I want to just, as a takeaway, to explain how I think important this QDMS tool is to keep track of all of your ISO related data. Not only does it manage all of your risks, but it can manage all of the data that's associated with ISO. Now, why is it so important? Because, well, since if you're ISO certified, then every year you need to go through a surveillance audit, and you have to demonstrate or prove to the auditor that you are meeting all of the ISO requirements. So that is one way of doing it, because all of your ISO related data would be available on the server and ready to show to the auditor. And I think the other thing, even if you're not ISO certified, but let's say you're ISO compliant, that's also a very good way to help you in dealing with all of the QMS data. And who knows, one day you may want to apply for certification. And then obviously, if you have all that information on QDMS, it'll be very easy to cross that step and get your certification. So I think it's something definitely to consider, and using this QDMS tool will definitely help you in your organization.
Alex, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Much appreciated. Before we end our session, a couple of announcements. Some of you, I'm sure, had a chance to see Synergize 2022 annual virtual conference and summit. Recordings are available still on our YouTube channel if you'd like to watch any missing session in terms of digital transformation and automation related sessions. We'll also be performing Synergize 2023 in 2023 on March 15. So feel free to visit our Eventbrite page and schedule and register for the Synergize 2023 annual virtual summit and conference. We'll be having a limited registration available, so earlier you register is better. Our Eventbrite page is available on Eventbrite. You'll be able to see what type of events, webinars, and other activities are coming up from Bimser International. You can see the list and you can register for those that you're interested. In addition, we have a YouTube channel, Bimser International YouTube channel. Official channel is actually very informative. There are hundreds of videos available about digital transformation, automation, cloud technology. So you can watch the videos, and feel free to register and subscribe so that you'll be notified as soon as we have a new recording available, new video available on our YouTube channel. So you are invited. I'd like to thank you for your time and thank you for your interest, and looking forward to having you at our coming executive webinar series. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you for attending the executive webinar session at Bimser International Corporation. Bimser International is a world-class global enterprise software publisher since 1998. Based in New York, Bimser is active nationally and internationally. To learn more about Bimser International, please visit www.bimserint.net. To schedule an introductory meeting, please email marketing team@bimserint.net. Thank you.